Hey everybody, JC here. We're going to talk about some hydrotherapy. So we want to take care of our tools, right? And if you're a musician, if you sign for a living, if you are a massage therapist, there's a lot of us who, hairstylists, a lot of us who use our hands and mechanics and whatnot, constantly gripping onto things and turning with our wrist. This can start to get our tendons and our hands and everything that makes up the soft tissue of our arms tricky. So maintenance, we just want to keep everything happy. One of the ways that we can do that is hydrotherapy. It's not the only way, but it is a really good way. I would suggest doing something like this if you're really dealing with something in your hands, your elbows, or even up in your shoulders, once a week. If not, then maybe once every other week or once a month, just for that regular maintenance that you know that you're getting some hydrotherapy. So here I have a bucket with ice water in it, and then I have a bucket with warm water in it. This is not extremely hot water. The hottest I would ever want to get it is between 103 and maybe even up to 106 degrees. 106 would be kind of a limit for me, right, in terms of the hot water, since we're going to be transitioning. We can use a little bit of Epsom salt in our hot water here. That's just optional. That's not necessary, but it's nice to have those minerals in there. And basically what we're going to do is go back and forth between cold and warm. Now, since both of my tools get affected, I'm going to do both of my hands. Maybe you have an injury or you're recovering from an injury only on one hand, so you would really only need to do this only on one hand, or maybe you only have one elbow that gets a little bit of tendonitis in there, whether you're talking about golfers or tennis elbow or something like that. So then you only need to do this on the one arm because the other arm seems to be fine. So what I'm going to do is, it doesn't matter which one I start with. I like to start with cold, but since I'm doing both hands, I'm going to start both of my arms in each one of these. For me, it's a whole entire forearm and hand situation, so I'm going to go after both of those. I'm going to put my elbow in ice water over here, and really the only reason I'm not putting my entire forearm into this ice water is because my tub just isn't that big. If I had a much larger tub, I could put my whole forearm, my hand, my wrist, everything into that ice water at the same time. And I'm going to put my other elbow into the hot water. The warm water, you can sustain being in the warm water for quite some time. Usually I tell people put your limb in the ice water for about 30 seconds and then rotate over to the warm water for maybe a minute. And then just keep rotating back and forth like that. It's really easy to remember how many seconds I said for the ice water because you really don't want to leave anything in ice water much longer than about 30 seconds. It starts to get kind of brutal. So now that I've done my elbows, we're going to assume that that's right around the 20-second or 30-second mark. I'm going to move to my wrists. So I'm just going to pull my elbows out of there. I've got this convenient towel to just kind of dip off a little bit. And now I'm going to go to hands and wrists. And I'm just relaxed in there. My hand could be open, my hand could be closed. It's really just whatever's going to be allowed with the size of these tubs here, right? But I'm just hanging out and really trying to breathe and be tolerant of what's happening to my limbs. My right hand loves this. It feels great. Left hand, not so much, not so great. It's in ice water. And, primally, our body does not want us to be in ice water. That's not something that we can sustain for very long. We can't survive in ice water, and none of our limbs can survive in ice water for a very long period of time. So instinctually, our body starts to send these messages to us that this is uncomfortable, this is painful, and you should get out. And that's one of those things that you just kind of have to breathe through, let yourself know it's only going to be about 30 seconds, it's going to be all right, and we're going to transition to warm water. So 30 seconds later, I'm just going to dip off a little bit. And just to make it easier for myself, I'm going to switch these tubs. I'm going to put my left arm now in the warm water. I'm going to put my right arm in the cool water. I'm going to start just the way I did on the other side, where I'm just starting with my elbows, putting my elbows down into that because I want to get that upper forearm into this hydrotherapy situation. And I'm going to hang out there for 30 seconds, and then we're going to rotate. You would do this back and forth, right? After I've done each body part or each limb for 30 seconds, I could call that a round, and I'm going to do this for 3 or 4 rounds. During my rounds, I may have to switch my ice water out and get more ice water to keep it nice and cold. I may have to, add a little bit more heat to my hot water if my hot water is not really, keeping its temperature all that great. So things to think about when you're doing your hydrotherapy: have a lot of ice on hand, have a little timer on hand so that you know how long you're doing this. Although sometimes you can just go by how your body feels in that cold, cold, cold ice water. But you want to try to stay in there for at least 30 seconds. So that might be useful to have a timer around so that you can make yourself stay in that ice water for about 30 seconds. And again, keeping your mental state calm about it, acting like it's no big deal is beneficial to you, so that this doesn't become something that's unwanted or that you don't want to do again and again. The consistency of doing this over and over, on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, or monthly basis, it's really hard to be consistent about something that you don't enjoy doing or that you don't want to do. So while you're doing it, just keep in mind this is good for your system, it's good for your body, it's going to be very refreshing for the blood vessels, for the tendons, the bones, the ligaments, the skin, everything. This is actually, hydrotherapy goes back years and years, so this is a really cheap, easy way to get some super good therapy on your tools. Get after it, you guys, and good luck with that ice water.